Hey, what's good, guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video. Today we have a trade recap, something I haven't done in a while. So let's jump right into it. It was a GJ trade, um, and basically I'm going to show you guys today how and why I caught this move higher. We're going to talk about the fundamentals, right? Because that's very, very important. We're going to talk about the technicals, trade management, etc. So let's jump right into it. This was my final trade for the week. I took 3 trades this week. All of them involve yen shorts, right? Because overall, that has been one of the weakest currencies, and so that's been a pretty safe bet as long as you're pairing it with a decently strong currency. So, anyways, let's get right into it. Fundamentally, let's talk about it. So, up here, we got the fundamentals. For the pound has been insanely strong. I mean, let's look at the daily chart here. Right, we can see ever since last March, right, obviously when the pandemic hit, ever since then, we've seen the pound be fairly strong. A few hiccups here because of Brexit, but as you can see, after Brexit cleared up in December, it's just been vertical ever since. Right, so for that reason, the pound still has very strong fundamentals. Strong economy right now. Their economy is doing fairly well. They have positive data. Overall, things are going good. They have reopening next month. They have been slowly reopening a lot faster than other countries. And that's also due to high vaccination rates. They're one of the top vaccinators at the moment in terms of percentage of population. Now, however you feel about vaccination, it is helping the currencies because the more people are vaccinated, the faster they can open up, right? So they're expected to open up in the next 3 weeks fully, right? I believe it's like middle of June. So the market is pricing all of this in, right? Because it's all very positive. And then lastly, we have a hawkish Bank of England. What does that mean? Bank of England is the central bank of the UK, right? So they obviously impact currency prices depending on what their policies are. Hawkish means that they are optimistic, let's say, about inflation. And so because of that, they are looking at tapering their asset purchases, which potentially they'll do that next meeting, or for sure probably the meeting afterwards. And because of that, the market is pricing this in. This is also positive for the currency. So just overall, nothing wrong with the pound. And so because everything's looking good, I have been long biased the pound for a long time. Does that mean that it won't, as you can tell, have pullbacks? No, it's going to have pullbacks, right? It's going to have some pullbacks. The key is to buy on those pullbacks, right? So anyways, that's it for the pound. On the yen side of things, why has the yen been so weak for last year? Well, because it's a safe haven currency. And, you know, as soon as the pandemic hit, obviously it appreciated very, very heavily because there's lots of fear, and fear causes people to put their money into safe havens. But ever since then, things have been optimistic. Oh, it's going to end soon, 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 right? And so because of that optimism, people have been ditching safe havens and putting their money into more risky currencies like the pound, like the Australian dollar, like the New Zealand dollar, like the CAD, Canadian dollar, right? So anyways, yeah, safe haven demand keeps falling, partially because of government spending, right? All these spending, stimulus bills, all of that has been helping out this optimism. And like I said, economies and travel opening up, also a reason for optimism, another reason to ditch safe havens, and higher global vaccination rates, which is fueling this, you know, travel opening up and economies opening up, etc. So overall, good combination for a long trade, and it's been a good combination for, like I said, the last year, which is crazy to say, but it's been pretty true. I've only shorted this pair like once or twice in the last year, and I think it ended up one win and one break even, which would have turned into a loss, but I decided to get out at break even. So definitely the bias has been on the long side. So let's talk technicals, right? On the technical side, we had it was pretty choppy here, right? It was pretty much in this consolidation, right? Um, and we finally got a breakout. And so this tells me, okay, this thing is looking to head higher. The fundamentals support it. The US dollar has been fairly weak, which supports the pound a bit, right? If the US dollar is weaker, that usually drives more flows into, well, pretty much every other currency, but especially like the euro and the pound. So for this reason, and it was holding this I guess we'll call it a triangle very nicely. And I apologize, I have allergies, so my nose is a little bit stuffed. But I had this triangle, sort of exact same thing that happened back here, and it broke out very heavily. And I was thinking something like that could happen again. Was I entirely positive this was the spot, right? Because even if you have the fundamentals right, I mean, this thing could dip here, could dip down to here. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to head straight up, even though if the overall fundamentals are positive. That's what people don't really understand, right? You still need to time your trades well to make money, even if, you know, you understand where the currency is headed, right? So anyways, it was forming this for quite a while. The pound, let's look at GU here. GU is holding this support nicely, right? And because it was holding this support, and as it was rejecting here, I was like, okay, this looks to be holding. We could definitely see another leg up to here or higher. So sort of using a bit of currency correlation, right? And so because of that, right, it was holding this trend line. I figured, okay, the pound could definitely be heading up from here. The yen is pretty weak. So this could be a decent breakout spot, because the way I look at things is, okay, let's look at GU. GU moved lower, but so far it's been, the dollar's been a bit stronger, right? We can tell because this is now retesting lows, these lows, and actually broke these lows a little bit. But let's look at GJ. That didn't happen. Even though the pound broke those lows on GU, we can tell the yen is much weaker than the US dollar, because right here it did not break these lows, did not break these lows, did not break these lows, right? It couldn't even break this low. And so that sort of gives me confidence. You know, even if GU sort of chops around, this thing is not going to sink unless something happens with the yen, right? So that's sort of how I look at it. So that gave me a bit of confidence to think, okay, this thing could easily just stick here for a while, you know, and because I do believe the pound is heading higher. So for that reason, I decided to take a long. Technically, it really wasn't too difficult of a decision, right? I just got in on rejection, right? And so as this was rejecting here, I bought in somewhere around this level. Stops was going to be below here, right? So below this low here, I figured, okay, if it could break this low, that pretty much invalidates my trade idea, and this thing could definitely move lower to here, or even possibly break for a extended move lower. So pretty managed risk here, only like 30 pips, and my target was well, honestly, I didn't really have a target. I was just targeting highs, right? And I was just going to take some off as it got higher. You don't really need firm targets, in my opinion. I mean, this risk reward is already 5.5. So, you know, and I target at least 1 to 2. Usually I like 1 to 3, right? And so, honestly, as long as it broke this high, you know, I was going to be looking to take profits. So anyways, I saw the strength, and I believe as it got somewhere around this area, it started getting a bit overextended, right, for one single move. I started taking profits, and I've taken most of the trade-off. And that's really the trade, right? Obviously, the fundamentals take a lot longer to explain than the technicals. It was in a triangle, fundamentally made sense, and I took it, right? And I just want to point out, sometimes for me, a technical entry could just be something like this, right? Or it could just be one zone. It's not always, oh, I had this trend line, I had this fib, I had this, I had that, and this, and that, and this. It's not always 5 confluences for a trade, right? Because sometimes the markets are weird. They form weird things, and you can't always just look for a ton of technical confluences and the perfect entry, right? You're not always going to get a perfect entry. And so for that reason, sometimes you have to be a little bit creative with your entries. And yeah, trust me, if I waited for a perfect setup every time I got into a trade, as in technically it looked perfect, I would have missed a lot of good opportunities. Because when you know the fundamentals and you're pretty confident in them, then you sort of understand the price action. If something's really strong, it's not going to pull back too heavily, right? Like for example, let's look at AN here, right? I was sort of looking for a breakout because the fundamentals supported the New Zealand dollar a lot more than it's supporting the Australian dollar, mostly due to their central bank, right? And so after their central bank announcement, this thing just fell really hard. Is it going to pull back from here to there and then head lower? Probably not, because the New Zealand dollar is so much stronger than the Australian dollar right now. There's no reason for it to pull back that hard, right? It doesn't make sense fundamentally. And so when you start, looking at markets that way, things sort of become a lot more clear about what you're looking for on a particular trade. You could sort of figure out, okay, it's probably not going to pull back that much. I should look for a trade a little lower or a little higher, depending on the situation. Does it take more brain power? Does it take more experience and intuition? 100%. But yeah, that's sort of my process. So I don't have a specific necessarily entry criteria. Does it have to hit the 61 fib or whatever? No. Depends on the situation. Depends on how strong or weak a pair is, right? And sometimes it's really hard to catch on to the strongest currency, because I'm trying to look for a New Zealand dollar long right now, but it's hard to find an entry because it's so strong it's not pulling back. Also, I'm not going to chase the trade, so sometimes you just gotta miss it, right? And that's okay. So anyways, guys, if you enjoyed, gained value, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
I come from a town where most of the people are so close-minded. They go into school and they work in a job, but they don't even like it. I won't be put in a box. Nobody telling me what I should rock. Nobody telling me what I